Hi. Good afternoon. Oh gosh, you guys, I'm a little bit late for this live stream today. And it's good to be here. So I'm Dr. Maisha. For those of you who don't know me, founder of the Mind ReMapping Academy. And today I want to talk about, hey, for those of you who are joining live, um, why when we're doing change work, so we'll talk about change work, and change work is universal, right? People do change work. They change this is like applies to whether you're changing your eating habits, whether you're changing your exercise habits, whether it's behavioral change, belief change, environmental change, or I should say cultural change, right, in an organization. So I just want to like start by saying that, change is the only constant, isn't it? Um, and we're always experiencing, especially people who are into personal development and personal growth, are always experiencing this desire for getting better and better, and for improving themselves and for change. And there are always levels to change. There are these levels to growth and development. And you're always peeling back the layers as you grow. You're peeling back the layers. So what I want to talk about today is a lot of people focus on this, and particularly in health and wellness, but I think this also happens organizationally as well. When doing change work, focusing on changing the environment. And and I'll tell you a story. When I have a proclivity towards sweets. I love dessert. I love cake. And any friends of mine that are watching this could tell you how much I love dessert. When I go to a restaurant and I look at the menu, you know what I look at first? I look at the desserts first. And if that does not have, if that menu does not have good desserts on it, that restaurant is not worthy of me going to it. And so the thing about that is that when I began my journey of um, weight management, because I used to be wider, a little heavier, and I, for me, what feels good is a particular weight, that for my 5'1" frame. And so when I began that weight journey, and just health journey, like many many years ago, it was challenging for me to manage my sweet intake, mostly because I started by only trying to change the environment. So, like I take all the sweets out the house. I don't buy I don't buy junk food in the house. I don't buy, processed sweets. I don't buy that kind of thing. And I don't keep it in the house. I don't cook whole cakes in the house. If we have a family gathering like Thanksgiving, or if I host Christmas, when people bring their whole desserts, I send them home with what they bring. And, like I eat my portion, I send them home, because I know when it comes to sweets, I have a weakness. And so the challenge with that is that uh, changing the environment was good, but I still had me. I still had this brain. I still had the beliefs that I had about my ability to scale back sweets. So when you change your environment, it's helpful when you're in that environment. But unless you're only in one environment all the time, changing the environment can be very limiting. When we're talking on a bigger scale organizationally, changing an environment can be helpful, but you still have the same people in the environment. So if you have a different environment with the same unresourceful, toxic behavior, it doesn't make a difference. It's very limiting. So this is one of the reasons when I talk about change work, and this is particularly when comes inside of the training for neurolinguistic programming. This is why we talk about changing at different levels, right? So there's this concept, and Robert Dilts, one of the founders of neurolinguistic programming, talks about this all the time. The logical levels of change and transformation. And you probably have heard me talk about this before, but when we think about change, environment is the most basic level of change. It's the most basic level. And it can be the easiest to change. Like if you don't like a job and it's toxic, you can change jobs, you've changed the environment, and that may improve, especially like, let's say burned out. If you're burned out, like if you're burned out, then and you think it's because of a job, I'm going to put that in air quotes, right? Again, that's external, that's looking external rather than internal, right? There's external. You look at where you are, then changing the environment to a better environment can actually improve your, your well-being, or your satisfaction, your fulfillment in the space. However, if you think about, you're bringing your same behaviors to that next place, if you have some unresourceful, unhelpful behavior patterns, like the refusal to set boundaries, like going, I think the boundaries is the biggest one, like working beyond the hours, like not setting your personal boundaries. So we're talking specifically about work here. Then you're going to take that behavior into the other environment and you're going to get burned out again. You see where I'm going with this? So at the next level is the behavior. And when we begin to moderate our behavior, that deepens the level of change. That creates another level of sustainability of change, to change behavior. Now, again, you can change behavior and it's very, very effective. But then you have to look at, what if you only have so much capacity for change in a particular way of being, like in a particular context? You may only have a limited capacity for change. You may hit a ceiling of capacity. And so you have to look at, well, what is your capability? So we're talking about people who now, maybe you've moved from one job to the next. I'm using job as an example because it's a very easy example, but map this on to dating. You're dating one person, seems like a toxic environment. So you stop dating that person, you start dating another person. Maybe you have changed some of your behavior, you start setting some boundaries, start communicating better, but then you reach a ceiling. And you got to look at, well, what are your capabilities? What is your capacity? That's the next level. And we talk about, let's say, job to job, right? Job to job, second jobs, you change your behavior. It was a little bit better, but there's still something missing. You still find yourself burning out. And you decide, you know what? Job is not for me. I want to start a business. Well, guess what? If you're not a person who has been in business before for yourself, you've capped your capability. So then you have to start looking at, what is your skill level? What is your capability? If we're talking about communication, maybe you've changed some behaviors, but maybe your communication skill is capped out. There's some new techniques and some new tools for communication and even listening that need to be developed, right? This is when we start to get beyond just the environment and just the rote behaviors. We're talking about expanding ourselves. And when you expand your skill, your capacity to communicate, when you expand your capacity to set boundaries, you expand your emotional intelligence, this is sort of like the skill level, then it gives you another level of depth in sustainability in change. Now, let's take this to the organizational level, right? So we've changed, the work that I do. If you follow me, you know that I do work in conscious communication, trauma-informed communication, and the anti-racism and DEI space. So when we work with organizations, then they want to create the strategy for a lot of this environmental change, which is great. But we are talking to them about behavioral change, and we're talking to them about expanding their capacity, their skill level, their knowledge and skill in the areas of communication when it comes to looking with an equity lens, a diversity and inclusive and equitable lens, and communicating that way in a trauma-informed lens. But most people don't have that level of skill. So then we have to expand that capacity. And when you expand that capacity, then you're able to, again, have change happen at a deeper and a more sustainable level. But then, you've gotten, so this right here is profound. But then there are like there's another level, and that's the level of values. Why are you doing what you're doing, right? So you have the where, that's the environment. You have the what you're doing, that's the behavior. You have the how, that's the case skill, the capability. Now you have the why. And if you followed me at all, if you've listened to any of my past um, lives, you know I love talking about values and beliefs, because this is the why. This is like the motivation. What is the motivation behind? This is where beliefs come in, because you can have change at the level of the environment. You can have change at the level of behavior. You can expand your skill. But if your values are not aligned with everything that you're doing, that change won't be sustainable, because guess what? The belief will limit you. That's why we call them limiting beliefs, right? The belief will limit you, and you'll come up against a belief or a value, and you have to look at, well, why am I making this shift? What is the belief that I have about this change? Right. So for example, I'm gonna come back to me and the sweets. Right. So I changed my environment. I stopped buying sweets and holding them in the house. Then there was the behavior. I had to pull back on the behavior of going out to eat as often as I went out to eat. And one of the behaviors that I instituted, or the structures that I instituted, was creating a one day, not to completely eliminate sweets, because that ain't gonna happen. I'm not even gonna lie. So creating a structure, behavioral structure for, okay, this day and this day I get to have dessert, so I have something to look forward to. But then I wanted to have some desserts be healthier. So then I had to expand my skill for making healthier desserts, or making healthy sweet treats in between when I really got that craving and I wanted to like have something in the middle of the week, but I didn't want to go and buy a full dessert. So I had to expand my skill level, my cooking ability. And I can cook, y'all, but like healthy desserts. Then I had to start to look at, well, why am I doing this? Like, what's in it? What is it that's in it for me? What is my value? And it's really for me to be healthy. I've got a 7-year-old son. I want to maintain my health, my agility, my flexibility, and also, I walk my talk. I mean, I'm a physician. I'm an integrative medicine physician is what I practice. So like holistic living, like that's my jam. Yogi, and so there's some congruency there that was in it for me as well, in terms of a value, right? A level of integrity that was there for me. So when we start to look at the values, when we begin to, and beliefs, and I had to look at, well, what's my belief about the ability to really be able to have good desserts, moderately, and healthy desserts in between if I wanted them. Like, what is the belief about my ability to be flexible, and about my intake, and what are all the other ways that I could fulfill that craving without it being a major sweet issue. And so we look at our values and why we're doing what we're doing. We also look at our belief system. Now, a lot of times people think beliefs are static, but beliefs can be changed, right? Limiting beliefs can be moved out of the way. So we look at, how do we then, if we notice that we have some beliefs, some limiting beliefs, some concerns about our ability to do things, then we can move that limiting belief out of the way, and really look into the depth of the core value. That's what's important to us, right? The value is what's important to us about the change. What's important to you organizationally about DEI, about inclusivity, about belonging, about being equitable, about justice, racial justice, right? What's important to you about relationship and what you need in a relationship? What's important to you about your job and your well-being and your career and your lifestyle? So you start to look at that. And when you have when you're really aware of those values and you begin to align, so I talk a lot about alignment, aligning your values to your skill and capability, to your behavior, and to your environment, guess what? the sustainable change gets that much deeper. All right. But then, yes, but wait, there's more. So you have another level of change, right? When you start to do the work of identity, and I'm not saying that you have to change your identity, but when you start to get who you are for people in the world inside of the context of whatever it is that you're shifting, like I think of myself as a parent as part of my identity. And the work that I do, part of my values, is to create generational change, is to stop generational trauma cycles, old cycles of trauma, old cycles of unresourceful thinking and limiting behaviors and beliefs. And so part of my identity is not just a healer, not just a teacher, not just a parent, a transformation, a purveyor or a giver of transformation. Like I have multiple identities that drive me, that drive my values. You see where I'm going with this, right? So you got this higher level, and who you are and who you identify as. And I'm not just talking about like the worldly identification of, woman, man, non-binary, sexual orientation, identification as race. It could play into it, right? But I'm talking about the bigger identity of yourself. And sometimes we have to work to find that, right? That bigger identity of ourselves. Because a lot of times, and I can tell you from experience and also from working with lots of like highly trained professionals, particularly physicians, that we get lost in our work. We can lose our sense of self, which can then distort our values and beliefs, distorting what we think we're capable of, distorting our behavior in the environment that is making us unhappy. So then we have to really start to come up and do that level, that identity work to really peel. Remember I said peeling back the layers, you're peeling back the layers, or peeling back the layers, right? Do that identity work so that we can get in touch with the core of who we are as we're doing this work. And then one more, then we can begin to do work at the level of purpose, right? At the level of purpose and mission, that will feed into who we are as an identity, right? It starts to like, oh, we really get our purpose and our mission. And let me just say that sometimes purpose and mission changes over time. Some people think that, number one, I think some people think everybody wakes up with a purpose and a mission. That's not true. People find it over time. There's never too late to find your mission or purpose. It's never too late to find your mission or purpose, right? And purpose and mission can change. Before I had my child at the wonderful age of 39, yes, I am older than 39, almost 8 years older than 39. Before I had my child at the age of 39, generational conversations were not a part of my repertoire. I mean, it's not that I didn't care about them. It's just that they weren't a part of my daily mission, daily purpose. Also, like kids, I was more in the healing realm, and I love kids, but it wasn't like, that wasn't the driver. That wasn't the purpose. Like really leaving that legacy for the next generation was not as strong of a purpose. It was more working with the people who were here, that were in my circles, and healing them, mind, body, and spirit. And now it's healing us and giving resources to the next generation, like healing us to give resources to the next generation. Because guess what? We're us parents, people who are parents, us parents, we are passing down conversations. Organizations, you're passing down conversations. Right? And so when I had my son, that conversation, that purpose, that mission shifted, such as my identity shifted, meaning like there was an additional identity that got added on that has become one of the most important identities of my life. I'm a mom first. I'm a healer. I'm a purveyor of transformation. I'm an educator. I'm a trainer, I'm a consultant. I'm all these things, right? Still a physician, right? Still a doctor. But I'm a mom first, right? And so that's that. And so that mission sort of plays into your sense of identity, which gives you your values and beliefs, plays into your beliefs, which gives you your beliefs and your values, gives you what you think you're capable of, or what you are capable of, but what you think you're capable of, right? Because whatever you're not capable of right now, you can always expand. But your beliefs will give you whether or not you think you can expand that capability, which gives you your, that skill level, gives you your behavior in the environment. And all of that helps you to create the environment that works for you, that works to create whatever the goal is that you want to create, that fulfillment, that joy, that peace of mind, that equitability, the inclusive environment, the love in a relationship, the successful and loving and interconnected parenting, teaching for the teachers out there. I love teachers, by the way. I don't say this often, but one of my big goals is big goals and missions is to reach educators, principals, assistant principals, teachers, to be able to help impact children, because that's my big passion, is impacting children. But to be able to do that with the educational system. I don't think I've ever said that in the space before, but here it is. And so it gives you, that's why the levels of change are so important. That's why changing an environment is not enough. That's why you need to look beyond just the environment, just the behavior, just the skill. That doesn't mean you can't get change with each of those. You can get change with each of those levels. But if you want transformation, you got to start going at the level of values, at the level of belief, at the level of mission and purpose, identity. And that's not easy work. And it doesn't happen overnight. And so that's why I do the work I do. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today is this, these levels of change, levels of transformation, and why it's so important to go beyond environment. And I mean that just as much for the organizations and businesses out there as I do for the parents and the spouses and the people who are, partnered, and people who are wishing to partner, and colleagues and friendships, right? And siblings. Shout out to my siblings. I love my sisters and brothers, right? So with that said, I'm going to share one more thing. First of all, y'all know what I do. I teach neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, and timeline therapy. I teach this to, healthcare professionals, healers, coaches, educators, and anyone else, like leaders, business owners, anyone else who really wants to really learn the inner workings of their mind, to be able to use language, verbal and nonverbal. We're going to talk about that because everything is communication, verbal and nonverbal, to be able to impact your own inner mind space, your inner game, and to be able to shift behavior, and to be able to make change at those higher levels, right? With yourself. And if you are a person who works with people and is in the business of transforming other people's lives, with them as well. And so I have a training actually coming up in September, but also November and January. And if you think that you are interested in joining one of these trainings, then reach out to me. If you're joining me from Instagram, just get into my DMs. You can also click the link in my bio, and that link will take you to my page. We can learn all about the NLP training. If you are listening to me on YouTube, or YouTube, I think in the description, you'll be able to reach out to me that way. And if you are listening to me from Facebook or LinkedIn platforms, yes, please message me directly. And of course, my links are all in my, biography sections. You can go and you can schedule calls with me. That's basically what I request you. I recommend you do is, you think you're interested, just schedule a NLP interest call with me, and we'll talk about like the ways that this could impact your life. And so finally, I got one more thing I want to share that's exciting. And that is, for some of you, you probably have seen, I put a poll out there. If you're on Instagram, you might not have seen this, but if you're on here, Facebook with me, and you're on LinkedIn with me, I put out a poll a while back because I was thinking about doing a 5-day challenge to see what people would want to work with. And drum roll, today I'm launching the registration for the Silencing Your Self-Doubt 5-day challenge. So the challenge is going to begin on Sunday, August the 28th. Had to look at the date. I'm like, what's today? Sunday, August the 28th through Thursday, September 1st. It'll be a live training. It'll be off platform. So it'll be a Zoom training. You register and you'll get the Zoom links. And there's a couple of opportunities to get some like one-on-one coaching after the training, after the main session. So, if you're interested, I'm going to pop the link. I'm going to be doing a post in just a moment anyway, but I'll pop the link in the chat. And for you guys on Instagram, I will pop the link in my link tree in just a moment so you can register for that 5-day challenge. And I hope to see lots and lots of people there. It's going to be transformational. We're going to take you through some processes that will help you to not only redefine that mastery of inner voice, but also to get a chance to really tease out some of your limiting beliefs and decisions that cause that self-doubt, and then to be able to start the process of release. And I'll tie it up with I tie it all together with like a process for the future. So join me in this 5-day challenge. It's actually free to join. And there's some opportunities for upgrades, but it's definitely free to join live. All right. So I will see you all in the next live stream. This was a long one today. I really had a lot to say. And I hope that you all enjoyed it. Please leave some comments in the chat and let me know, what is it that you got from learning about these levels of change? What is it that you're taking away? Especially if you're in an organization, what can you take away from the levels of change work that could really more deeply impact where you are? If you're, on the individual side, if you're a business owner, if you're doing personal development work, what are you trying to shift and change that it's time for you to up that level to make a more deeper, more sustainable change? Okay. All right, my friends, looking forward to the next time we get together, and you all have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the week. Namaste.